Braunginn, a renowned Israeli-born New York-based jazz harmonica player, performs with a passion that differs from other harmonica artists. Perhaps it's the region from which he derives, the Middle East and North Africa. His culture greatly influences his compositions and inspires his passions. Roni's work is influenced by harmonica legend Toots Thielemans, but only partially. The folk cultures that make up the regions and his spiritual influence mostly inspire his writing. Hi, this is Steve Braunginn, and you are listening to Strictly Jazz Sounds, your podcast for conversations about all things jazz. Roni Eytan stopped by my studio to talk about his harmonica work and how he got interested in this fascinating instrument. He shared how his interest in music began with the trumpet, but didn't last for very long. Roni became intrigued with the instrument, but he saw a film by the Beatles, one that many of us fondly remember, Yellow Submarine. Why? Because it had a trumpet in it and the movie was hip. But after only a couple of years, his interest waned and dropped it. Later, Roni picked up the harmonica, inspired by his friends. Then, jazz entered his life. Influences were Oscar Peterson and Charlie Parker. He saw the quintet The Cookers with saxophonist Billy Harper. Later came returning Jewish jazz musicians who mentored young musicians in Israel. As he entered high school, Roni spent considerably more time with jazz musicians, leading him to consider studying the art form after high school. He was fortunate to be accepted to the Herbie Hancock Institute at UCLA in Los Angeles, where he worked with Herbie Hancock, Wayne Shorter, Ambrose Akinmusire, among others. For this episode, we are delighted to offer 3 tracks from the concert the Roni Eytan Quartet presented in Columbus, Ohio, hosted by A Tribe for Jazz. According to Roni, this is the first time these musicians ever played together. The quartet includes Roni Eytan, of course, on harmonica, Gadi Lehavi on piano, Simo Willson on bass, and Alon Benjamini on drums. These tracks are not compressed in any fashion. I repeat, these are not compressed in any fashion. These are the raw tracks from the show in Columbus, Ohio at the Columbus Dance Theater, thanks to A Tribe for Jazz. The first one will be a part of an upcoming release, while the other 2 have yet to be recorded. Check that out. The 3 tracks are Winter Dance, which is a duet between Roni Eytan and Alon Benjamini, Focus Hymn, and Melody People. The episode opens with Winter Dance, then somewhere after the middle of the conversation you will hear Focus Hymn. The conversation closes, then you'll hear Melody People. Roni's last name is pronounced Eytan. I mispronounced it in the interview, so I'm correcting it right now. Thanks for listening. If you're a subscriber, you're one of the first ones to receive this episode. Subscribing gives you that honor. Let's get into episode 20, Roni Eytan, Jazz Harmonica Colossus. This is Strictly Jazz Sounds, the podcast for conversations about all things jazz. Here's the Roni Eytan Quartet with Winter Dance from a concert in Columbus, Ohio. We then talk about how his interest in the harmonica started. I'm Steve Braunginn. A harmonica player in jazz, why don't you start from the beginning? Tell me how you got interested in the harmonica. What were the things that triggered that for you?
I think that in the beginning, it wasn't even the harmonica, it was just music.
Mm-hmm.
It was probably around the time that I was 7 years old, I want to say. 7, 6. I mean, I think I was attracted to music before, but at that time I articulated it to my parents that I want to play. And actually, I wanted to play the trumpet.
Oh, not harmonica.
No, not harmonica.
And the music wasn't jazz, I'm sure.
Well, I think that I got the idea for the trumpet actually from the Beatles, from Sgt. Pepper. There was a movie. You know that movie?
Yes, I know that movie.
Yeah, so it's a pretty trippy movie. It's amazing, but
Yeah.
I used to watch it as a kid. Funny enough, we had a tape. It was back when, we had tapes then.
And did you watch Yellow Submarine too?
Yeah.
That's the movie.
Yeah, the Yellow Submarine, yes.
It's all right.
So, in that movie, there's a scene towards the end where they find like a warehouse with a lot of musical instruments. And I saw it and I went to my mother and told her that I want to play the trumpet.
Oh, dude. The Beatles inspired you for the trumpet. Not the harmonica, but the trumpet.
That's correct.
So how did you make that change from trumpet to harmonica?
So, yes, so I wanted to play the trumpet, and my father asked around, and a friend of him recommended that first maybe I should start with the recorder, because I was very young. I was 6. So he said maybe you should play for a year or two. You should play the recorder and then switch to the trumpet. That was his advice.
And that is a good instrument to do that with.
Yeah, and it was great. So for 2 years, I took lessons, recorder lessons, and that was kind of fun.
I bet it was.
Yeah, but I knew still I wanted the goal was the trumpet. So after 2 years, I started taking trumpet lessons, but that didn't last very long.
Obviously.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't the right time. Maybe it just didn't work out. So after a few months, I stopped. And I remember that my father brought it back to the store. And I thought, okay, maybe I'm not going to play an instrument anymore. By that time, I was probably 8 years old. So then a couple of years went by and I was already a teenager. And a lot of my friends were playing musical instruments. Mostly, I would say, a lot of people played the guitar, piano, drums. I was always attracted to music, so I felt like I want to play again. But I was thinking, what should I play? And I thought, I had that memory of the trumpet. I remembered how, it was in my mind back then. It seemed like a really big deal to get the trumpet. And then after I stopped returning it, so I thought, let's start smaller this time. Maybe something less expensive, also something less committing. I also had some memories of the harmonica from when I was younger. A friend of mine had a harmonica and he showed it to me and it looked so cool. And then there was also a cartoon that I used to watch that was quite popular in Israel. Yeah, it's originally from Finland. It's called Moomin. It's not very common here. And there's a character there called Snufkin who is playing the harmonica. So I think I just thought of the harmonica and I was lucky to find a teacher. His name is Elisha Shalom and he showed me the basics. And then I also started to discover harmonica, like harmonica players. And not too long after, I discovered the music of Toots Thielemans and obviously Stevie Wonder, which I knew his music from before, but then I realized what a great harmonica player he is. And that was the beginning of the harmonica for me. So I think I was probably around 14 or 15 at that time.
So what made you go to jazz? I mean, clearly we're talking about maybe some R&B, popular music, but somewhere in there you made some kind of a change over to jazz.
Right. It was actually pretty quick. My parents had few CDs, but there were 2 CDs in the house, like talking about jazz CDs that kind of grabbed me. in this time. It was one of them was an Oscar Peterson
Oh, yeah.
collection of his very early recordings from the late 40s.
Oh,
Like some of his
really?
first recordings
Yeah.
when he moved to the US.
Yeah.
And yeah, many of them are duets with Ray Brown.
Yeah.
And these early recordings, I love them. I used to listen to that a lot. And the other was Charlie Parker collection, the Cole Porter Songbook. And I loved these. At that time, I was discovering a lot of music because I was starting to play, and this passion for music started to grow very fast. I was very lucky to be around friends who showed me a lot of music. Few of them showed me some more jazz recordings. Pretty quick, after a couple of months of playing the harmonica, I started to be interested seriously in jazz.
So what year are we talking about?
We're talking about probably 2006 or 7.
So you had friends at that time
Yeah.
who were interested in jazz. You had a very interesting crowd of friends there.
A lot of young people that were playing music were into jazz and discovering jazz. A lot of it is thanks to older musicians that became quite well-known jazz musicians and often came back to Israel to teach or to perform. And yeah, I have some early memories of watching some of them, seeing some concerts when I was just starting. And that was maybe my first exposure for live jazz. And that made a very deep impact on me.
Yonathan Avishai, our friend Yonathan,
Oh, yeah.
he talked about that.
Oh, yeah.
He shared on how that very thing is what inspired him. As a matter of fact, his group of friends, other Israeli friends, musicians, were so inspired and were mentored by such individuals who came back, who went back to Israel and used that as an opportunity to grow this group of musicians. Did you look at it that way?
Absolutely, yeah. And in fact, Yonathan is one of them. He's one of these musicians that I was lucky to hear quite early on, and definitely big inspiration. And a lot of other musicians from his generation or a bit older than him, like Omer Avital and Avishai Cohen, Eli the Jibri. Yeah,
Of course, he plays with Avishai.
Yeah, they all been a very big influence on me. I'm very lucky to being able to see them perform live at that young age, to see people that are engaged in this and on such a high level.
Yeah.
These experiences left a very big mark on me, and I can pretty confidently say that a lot of the reason, that's a big part of the reason why I'm a musician today.
That's excellent. That type of mentoring is so important. Now, you went to the Herbie Hancock Institute. What did it mean to you to be invited to be able to go to the Herbie Hancock Institute? Explain what the Herbie Hancock Institute is, because I don't think people really understand what the Institute is. This isn't just a school where you go and you're taking a whole bunch of classes and everybody kind of works together. There is a core of students that you're a part of. Why don't you explain that?
Yeah, wow. It has been absolutely incredible to be part of it. The way that it worked when I was there, and if it still works like this, is we did an audition process, and then a band was formed from this audition by a panel that included Herbie Hancock, the great late Wayne Shorter, Ambrose Akinmuzira, and James Newton.
Oh, what a group.
Yeah, pretty heavy.
And you had an opportunity to be with Wayne.
Yeah, I'm very lucky and I'm very thankful for having the opportunity to meet him a couple of times, yeah. They chose us after this audition process, and we were 7 musicians in my class, and we functioned as a band for 2 years. It's not really like a usual school environment. It's more like a band, and they're very lucky to be mentored by some incredible musicians. Some of them are legends that we all grew up listening to, such as Herbie Hancock.
What happens there when you're a cohort, when you're a group of 7, and over a 2-year time period? It's not like at the beginning they give you a portfolio of tunes and say, okay, you're going to work on this for the next 2 years. Something else happens. What happens?
It's a lot about what we develop as a band. I think that's kind of a lot of the concept of it is to see what we can do together. The whole thing is about collaboration. So us, the band, it's up to us to find our sound and develop as composers and compose for that group. We each have done that, and it's a process. It's a beautiful process, not always easy.
I bet it's not.
But very rewarding, yeah.
Did they spend any time talking about business of jazz?
Yeah. We did have some classes with Karen Kennedy about music business classes. Yes, that was also there.
That's something that when I speak with some other musicians, some talk about how they wished that they had that opportunity to be in an environment where they would learn the business. And then there are those that I've spoken with, such as Terry Lynn Carrington, who is obviously an educator and a major one at that, who talked about how so many students need that in order to survive in the business. How has that been for you so far? I mean, you're young, and I've seen a number of videos. It's not like you're on a lot of work right now, but you're out there. How is that for you? How's the business of jazz?
Well, it's interesting. I feel like I'm still learning a lot.
I bet.
The other thing is that I feel like it's changing so much. Just the whole music world and music business is constantly changing. Even thinking about when I started, not even fully professionally, but when I went to undergrad, started in 2011, actually. It was a different world. We didn't have Instagram then. It was obviously the whole situation with the record companies was different. It was already post-internet and digitalized downloads, obviously, at that point, but still, it's constantly changing. So I have a feeling like you just gotta be open to learn and evolve, because what's relevant right now might not necessarily be so relevant in 3 years from now. But what is always relevant, I feel, is your mission, your center, and your goals and passion, because that's the motor for everything. And I feel like if you are staying consistent and you're willing to learn and adapt, you'll find a way to make it relevant at that moment, hopefully.
You and I were talking about the book on Sonny Rollins.
Right.
By Aidan Levy. And Sonny Rollins felt passionately about his music, but what he focused on was staying focused, getting the work done, working hard. He put in some serious hours. He did what's called the 10,000 hour rule. You put in at least 10,000 hours in order for you to get to the point where you want to be in whatever chosen field that you're in, whether it be a profession or not, but you're going to focus on it. You're going to drive at it. People talk about John Coltrane always having a saxophone on him. He would fall asleep with the mouthpiece in his mouth. That's the 10,000 hour rule. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, these great legends that you just mentioned are absolutely been and still be and probably will always be an inspiration for me in that regard. Yeah. The level of commitment that these great artists have kept throughout their whole career is really the absolute best example that you can have. And I often remind myself that when I'm feeling like I'm maybe distracted or getting away, maybe losing the focus a little bit, thinking about someone like Sonny Rollins or John Coltrane is always a positive thing. And I still didn't finish that book, the Sonny biography, but I'm in there. It's an amazing book, and it's so incredible to see how he was consistent about his dedication and just the highest level of inspiration for me to read about someone like him.
So going back to Herbie Hancock, he's 86 years old, and he's on tour right now.
Yeah.
That's the commitment.
Yeah, see someone like him is just, that's so inspiring. Yeah, that's what hopefully, you know, I want to do when I'm 86 years old. I mean, yeah, that's just absolutely inspiring to see.
Now he's going to be taking a break in the action because we have International Jazz Day coming up. In just a few days from now. It's on the 30th. And he is going to be in, let's see here. I'm trying to remember which Northern African nation he's going to be in, but
Morocco.
That's right. He's going to be in Morocco. And so he's going to broadcast from there. But the important thing is to note that Herbie takes the issue of jazz, takes the music very seriously, but also sees it as something that is a music of equals. I'm sure he talked about that with you guys, that you strive to create conversations among musicians where everybody has an equal opportunity to give. How do you think you can add to the pursuit of world peace through jazz music?
Yeah, that's definitely something that I wish I can do. And when you do this, when you play music from a pure place and from a place of wanting to connect to people, hopefully not from an ego place that's so much centered about yourself, but more about what you can give, then music connects. I can relate to my experience that how much I was connected to music of people that lived very, very far away from where I grew up, often in different times, came from a very different culture than me, but their message was so strong and inspiring that in a way I connected to them. And I feel like these great musicians are an inspiration in this regards, even if not reaching full world peace, which is obviously would be an incredible goal. Even just connecting to one person, but creating a real connection, or inspiring one person who might listen to it is in the other side of the world, and that might have a real effect on someone. And I believe in that. And I've seen this positivity in my life. I've seen it in other people that I've encountered throughout my journey with music. And that's what I wish to do with my music.
That's great. I don't think anybody could ask for anything else less, if not more. The one thing I want to ask more of is the harmonica. Let's talk about that. You have them on the table. One is blue. It's a dark blue.
Yeah.
It's pretty long. It's not the harp that I saw in blues bands.
Right.
That's a different type of harp. Let's talk about that, because for the most part, I think that when people think about the harmonica, that's what they think about. You know, they're thinking of Sonny Boy Williamson. I mean, they're thinking about the blues cats out of the Delta pulling that harp out of their back pocket and blowing some wild tunes, bending those notes. Okay, before I get into that, let's talk about the harmonica. Why don't you give it sort of an abridged history of the harp? And I understand that, you know, we're talking about diatonic, chromatic, and you have microtonal. Let's throw all that into the mix and let's talk about it. Where did the harp come from? I know it's a reed instrument, and, you know, we think about numerous types of reed instruments, but this is one of the smallest of them. So talk a little bit about the history of that. How did the harp develop? If you can share that, if you know about that. And let's then flow into the types of harmonicas, what sets them apart?
Right. So the instrument, from what I know, originated from Germany. And if I'm correct, it was developed by someone who was a part of the accordion workshop.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so it was sometime in the middle or early 19th century,
Okay.
from what I know.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the beginning of the harmonica. And at some point, I think still in the 19th century, it made its way to the United States, across the ocean, and it became quite popular and quite important, I feel, in the music here. You mentioned some of these legends that use the harmonica so incredibly
Oh, yeah.
for blues music. And at some point in the 20th century, the chromatic harmonica was developed. I'm not sure when right now off the bat, but I think in the early 20th century, it was the chromatic.
Why don't you explain what the chromatic is? That we're talking about chromatic and diatonic. So define what they are. How are they different from each other?
Sure. So the diatonic harmonica, which is often used for blues, is a harmonica that is tuned in one key. Now, obviously, when you hear these great masters play it, they're playing other notes that are not just within the basic notes that you get in the harmonica, but that's through advanced techniques of bending and overblows, which allows you to reach those notes that are supposedly not available on the instrument, but that's a big part of the sound that they're getting.
Those are the masters that are doing that.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's an essential part of playing a blues harmonica, is learning those bends and overblows.
And that's what makes it really exciting as a listener, to feel that. And it has a real feeling to it. It's very emotive.
Yeah, it's very emotional. And the way that they're able to make it sound so expressive is incredible. So those harmonicas are diatonic. So often a professional diatonic harmonica player will have a couple of these in different keys.
So they may have it in C. They may have it in D, which is popular for blues.
Correct.
And maybe one other, probably what, F?
Yeah, and maybe E also.
Probably E, yeah.
Yeah, but there also, I want to mention that there's some people who took it really far away, and I actually know a few of these that were able to play fully chromatically on a diatonic harmonica.
No kidding.
Yeah, there's the great Howard Levy, who is pretty well known for this.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. That's what Howard did.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Whoa. Okay, so that's diatonic.
Exactly.
Chromatic is what?
So chromatic, with the chromatic harmonica, you have access to all the 12 notes that we have in Western music.
In one harmonica.
Exactly. So the visual difference is quite obvious. You notice that a chromatic have a little button on the side that we call it a slide. So this one, the slide allows us to access notes that are outside of the scale. So basically, if I'm not pressing the harmonica, if I'm just playing it with a slide, I'm playing just in C major. When I press it, it raises everything.
I have to step up.
Exactly. So if I'm playing with the slide pressed, just playing the notes that are available, I'm actually playing in C sharp or D flat. So in between them, I have all the notes.
So when you're holding it, you just press it in order to get what you want. So when you press it, you're able to go from one reed hole to the next. Is that how it works?
Yeah, I'm basically accessing another reed.
Yeah.
When I press the slide, you can see here it shifts where the air goes. If you look, for instance, we have all these holes in the harmonica. So if you focus on one of them, when I press the slide,
the holes open, and then press the slide, the holes close.
Exactly.
Where it's located, because I see here that you have, say, we select a hole, and then there is a slot that's available to it. But once you press it, that slot is gone at that location, which is on the bottom. But now at the top of the hole, there's a hole there.
Exactly. and it sends the air to another reed.
Ah.
So in a way, yeah, this reed instrument, the same way like the accordion, all the reeds are inside, and each reed is tuned for a specific note. It's not like the reed changes when I press the slide. It just sends the air to another reed.
Got it.
And inside, there is a specific reed for every note in the chromatic scale.
That's easy enough. Now, microtonal.
Yeah,
We're talking about a different world.
that's correct.
Explain that.
Right. So, well, in Western music, we have 12 notes. And in non-Western music, we have many other notes. I started to think about the idea of the microtonal harmonica because I wanted to play traditional music for my region that required microtonals and microtonal notes, microtones.
We're talking about Israel. We're talking about
Yeah.
Northern Africa.
Exactly. In the whole region of the Middle East, it is quite common to hear microtones in different tuning systems. The makam, it was something that from a younger age I wanted to do with the harmonica, because there's a lot of music that I was fortunate to listen to and being exposed to from a younger age. I haven't heard it played on the harmonica, but I wanted to play it. And I was using actually bends, like bending the notes at that time, but I felt like it can be done better with using tuning. Especially I was inspired by listening to the accordion in Arabic music, because the accordion exists in this music already from, I think, the 50s or even before. So they're tuning it in a way that allows it to give you the access to certain microtones to play it in a more traditional context. So that inspired me. I was lucky to get in touch with the incredible Brandon Power. He was based in the UK. He was a great harmonica player and also a very innovative harmonica technician and builder. And don't remember when I first contacted him. It was pretty early on. I want to say even 2014 or 2013, somewhere around that time when I was in Berkeley, in Boston. And we started a process of first exchanging emails. I sent him some recordings, and it was a pretty long process, but we collaborated on this, and he created a few amazing instruments for me. That I'm
Oh,
very
so
fortunate.
you had some that were created for you.
That's correct.
Oh, that's excellent. I'm going to gather then, well, based off of what I've seen, music that's been recorded, that the music of your culture, music of your region is very important to you. And how much do you include that in your playing and in your composing?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it is quite important for me. And I feel like my approach to this has been to try to let it come, let whatever needs to come out, come out. I spent, as I mentioned, many years listening and still do and studying traditional music and practicing it and playing it in contexts that are traditional, that are not involved in jazz. But I was hoping, that it will naturally become part of my language, my musical language. And I tried not to force it in a way, not to come to it from a place of wanting to create a certain kind of fusion, but rather to let what I hear come out. I would say that I was inspired by people that have done it, or not maybe in my way, but have done it in their own way. Let these influences come out, people that are involved in jazz, such as Omer Avital and Avishai Cohen. There were a few musicians in Israel when I was coming up that were bringing these influences. And what was important for me was to try as much as I can to learn and understand the source of this music. And I was also fortunate to study with some great teachers, such as Harel Shachal and Gadi Levi in Israel, who didn't play the harmonica, played other instruments. And a lot of these traditional influences are, as I said, they're part of my language, they're part of what I hear. And they're definitely present in a lot of my music. I feel like a lot of the melodies that I end up composing have folk elements in them. And that's something that I love. I love this folk element. And I was always inspired by people who've done it also in jazz, bringing folk elements. And yes, I would say that's part of my sound. If I have one, that is a part of it.
Seems to be a real large part of it.
Yeah.
How much of your spiritual life is part of that?
Well, I think for me, music and my connection with music is a lot about spirituality. So for me, every time I get to play the instrument, and especially when I get to connect with other people with a spiritual experience.
I was viewing the videos. I was looking at the videos that you had. I think I found some really good ones. One of them was meditation. You had you and David McKaylen.
Yeah.
In the quintet. To me, the feeling in this is uplifting, yet it's serene at the same time. Why don't you describe this particular composition? Because I got a sense that the whole group, the whole quintet, was meditating together. It was really a spiritual moment.
Well, first of all, I would like to mention that it is a great composition. The composition itself is written by David Michaeli.
David, okay.
Yeah, the
the
bass player in that group.
I apologize. I butchered that.
No.
Already.
No, that's fine. And yeah, that specific take was special for me. Sometimes it happens that I guess we strive for that, but when we play music, we strive for these moments that things click, things connect. And sometimes it's more successful, sometimes it's less, but I think it's very much about the intention. And I feel like in that specific take, the band that played in that moment were able to connect in what we felt. And yes, I feel this energy from this take as well. Yeah.
Another type of imitative jazz, for lack of any other term, was Between the Suns.
Yeah, that's also from the same band.
Yeah.
So it's a group that I co-led with David Michaeli, who is a great bass player and composer based in Israel. This group started when I visited Israel, and David and we thought about doing a couple shows, and then we kept going with this. When I moved back during COVID for some time, I was based there again for about 2 years during COVID. This composition that you mentioned, Between the Suns, it's also written by David. He has this way of writing these supposedly simple tunes, but that reach the essence. I really enjoy playing his music. And this band has been special, I think, because we went through some, by the time that we recorded that, we've played quite a few shows and played together quite a bit. We knew each other, and I feel like there was, we're talking about what I talked before is something that I hope to achieve. Ideally, in every musical situation is that kind of the egoless situation where people are about the music and not so much focused about themselves or showcasing what they can do or how great they are. And once you're in this kind of environment, you set yourself and to create good music. So yeah, I definitely felt it with that group of musicians that you mentioned also in that recording.
I could feel it.
Great.
And I watched it numerous times. The pandemic then was an opportunity, it sounds like, for you, as it was for many other Israeli musicians. There was a different time for the musicians who were allowed to play in Israel, who were given opportunities to play together, to really dig in and flush out a lot of music. How do you compose? Do you compose on a keyboard, or do you use your harmonica to compose?
Well, I definitely use the keyboard more than the harmonica in my writing process. The beginning is different. Sometimes I hear an idea, I record it on my phone, just hear something in my head, the beginning of a melody or something, I'll record it.
Sure.
Voice memo, and later come back to it. Sometimes I'll play something and an idea would pop up and I will start developing it. And the work is often done with the keyboard. And a few times on the harmonica, but not so much. I would say the majority with the keyboard.
It begins on the keyboard. Yeah, easier. You can see it.
Yeah, and you have a wider,
Mm-hmm.
you have the full perspective. You have the harmony, obviously, and the other thing is that I'm much more limited on the piano. I'm not a great piano player. I'm pretty basic. So I actually like it for composing because then I write what I hear, and it's not coming from any place of any, muscle memory or so, or any technical ability that I achieved on my instrument. Now I strive to play from this place as well. That's the best place, if you ask me, to play what you hear, actually. And for the composing process, I love it because I like the fact that often coming and spending the time with just me and the piano and the keyboard, there is something, it's like a territory that is less familiar for me in a way, even though for many years now I played the piano, but it's not my main instrument. And something about that inspires, something about that meeting again with the keyboard, with the piano. I find it often inspiring to compose.
What is the status of the project that you recorded in 2023?
Yeah, so it's pretty much finished. We finished the mixing and the mastering.
Mm-hmm.
We're just figuring out a few things regarding the release, and it will hopefully happen in the next couple months.
Can I get a sneak idea of when?
Hopefully the fall.
Good. Oh, that's exciting. CD release party in New York?
Yeah, hopefully there'll be one. There will be some touring going on. We're working on it right now. We're planning quite a few things.
Do something at the Jazz Gallery?
Maybe.
That'd be
Who knows?
exciting. I understand that you enjoy the Cookers.
Wow. That's very true. How do you know this?
I check things out.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, well, going back to this time when I just started, I was probably 15 at that time. I was really just starting, a couple months in playing the harmonica, and more importantly, a couple months in taking music very seriously. Because it was after a few months that I already kind of felt like, wow, there is something really strong here and I want to pursue this. So at that time, there was a festival, a jazz festival in Jerusalem, my hometown. And one of the bands was the Cookers. Now, I didn't know anyone in the band at that time. And I remember I had a front row seat. I had a front row seat. And I still remember I was probably right under the bell of Billy Harper.
The tenor saxophonist, I'll let you describe, but
Yeah, the absolutely incredible tenor saxophonist. And
from Chicago.
I
And George
remember-
Cables was over here on piano, right?
yeah, with George Cables, Cecil McVie, and
Eddie
Doug
Henderson.
Henderson. There were a few subs because I remember that it was supposed to be James Spaulding. Not sure. That's what I remember, but it wasn't. It was Craig Handy. The great
Oh,
Craig.
really? Great hand. That's a good one. Yeah.
And I think he played alto on that
Did he?
in this show. Yeah, not sure, but that's obviously I'm going by memory.
And that's probably true because you had what's his face playing tenor.
Billy Harper.
Harper playing tenor.
Yeah, and in this band there are two trumpets. Obviously there is Dave Weiss.
That's right.
I don't remember who was playing because obviously it's a Billy Hart usually, but I don't remember if it on that gig if it was him or not.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't know who was Billy Hart
at the time.
at the time. It might have been him, but again, I remember there were a few subs. So
So that must have been a really exciting time for you.
yeah, I still remember the first tune that they played. Like the wave, like the wall of sound. It just hit me. The entire show, I just drank the whole thing. I was with eyes wide open. And it's one of these nights that really I felt like changed me. After the show, I was amazed. I didn't understand what I just heard, but I knew it was something incredible. I went to the show with a friend who was also a musician. I remember I told him something like, this is what I want to do, what they did tonight. It was a very deep experience. And after it, I remember that I went and looked for a record specifically of Billy Harper.
Well, you did?
Yeah, and it wasn't so easy to find in Israel, but I was able to find a record. I remember there was a CD store. You know, it was still at the time we used to go to the CD store, and there was one that was not too far from my high school. When we had a recess or a class got canceled and we had some more time, I would go to the CD store and just check out records.
That's great.
And I remember I used to go and ask them for specific things. And I think that a few times I went and asked, do you have an album by Billy Harper? And I don't think they had one. And then one day they had it. They had the one, I think it's his second album as a leader, or one of his first one. I think it's called the Euro.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, with very young Fred Hirsch. in it.
Oh, man. Check that out.
Yeah, and I got that album.
Hang on to that one, man. Well, that's a piece of gold there.
Yeah, well, I spent so much time listening to that album. It was just very influential on me.
Well, let's do this. We're going to close out, but play a little blues harp for us.
I'm so sorry to disappoint you. I don't have a blues harp here. Not in this bag.
That's it, folks. Thank you so very much for that. This
Thank
was
you.
wonderful, and I appreciate you coming by.
Thank you so much. It was a great pleasure. Alon Benjamini, Simon Wilson, Gadi Lehavi. My name is Roni Eytan. Thank you very much.
Roni Eytan will be at the Harmonica UK Festival. The venue is yet to be announced, and at the Red Sea Festival in Eilat on November 16th through the 18th, 2024. There is expected to be a CD release tour sometime this fall, as his new release will be announced soon. Once again, thanks to A Try for Jazz for the recorded tracks from the Columbus show. The theme music is by Johannes Wallman. It's from his composition McCoy, which can be found on the album Precarious Towers. Hey, we're still in festival mode around the world. Get out and support live jazz. And if you subscribed, you are one of the first to receive this episode. Subscribe. Thanks for listening to Strictly Jazz Sounds. I'm Steve Braunginn.